and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of Cone on the Road. I am in fact on the road. Well, I guess I'm technically in a car that's on the road. Either way, we are recording another Cone on the Road vlog, and today we're doing an AMA. I have gathered questions from the community Discord, and I'm going to answer them. I'm going to legit answer them. I said, ask me anything. You can ask me any question, and I will answer it to a degree of snark that I agree to. So you might get a very serious, heartfelt answer, or you might just get a really snarky answer. Depends on the kind of question you asked, I suppose. What would it take for me to visit Europe? Well, it's not like you'd really have to force me to visit Europe. It's just one of those things that's not at all on my radar. Travel in general is something that isn't something I plan for. It isn't something I even really look forward to. Like, some people live to travel. Some people exist purely for the reason of traveling. That is certainly not the case for me. Travel is just something that sometimes happens. Sometimes I get an opportunity to make a trip somewhere and experience something, and I generally enjoy those opportunities, but it's not something that I plan for. To visit Europe, not any different than any other trip for me, really. Obviously there's more to gatekeeping there. You gotta get a passport, you gotta, there's a lot more hoops to jump through for international travel. It's more of a pain than just plain traveling. But really, the only reason that I say, it's not something really on my radar is because it's just not something in my wheelhouse right now. I can't afford that kind of stuff. I don't have the time for that kind of stuff. I, at this point, pretty much work, I would say, for this year, I'm on track to work probably 340 of the days of the year. So, not really a whole lot of time for traveling in there. If an opportunity presented itself to make that a work trip, then maybe. But I would say for me, where I am right now and for the foreseeable future, probably very unlikely. Craig wants to know if there's any opportunities that I would pursue with Red if I had the opportunity, like if there was no budgetary restrictions, or if there's anything currently planned. And right now it's very much so a go with the flow kind of thing. Given the opportunity, I would love to work with somebody to more professionally get the car tuned. That's probably priority number one for me, as far as wild things to do with it that I can't currently afford. I would love to have somebody working with me to professionally get the thing running as perfect as possible with the setup that it has. There's also the dream of developing an intercooler. For those that might not know, it is a supercharged engine. It is a direct feed supercharger, so there's no intercooler. There's not really space to just, it's not like a turbo setup where you can just sneak an intercooler in there. It would take some extreme engineering to get the intercooler in between the supercharger and the intake manifold in the head. It's really, really tight spacing, so it wouldn't be easy. Immediate plans. The immediate plans are just to keep using the thing a little bit, make sure everything's working right, make sure it's running good. You watch the last Cone's Garage video, you see, we made some strides there. The thing still needs a set of tires. I really need to put a different set of wheels on it to accept tires that are the right size. And I'm just kind of waiting on that until opportunity strikes, because opportunity isn't quite there for that right now. So it sits there waiting in the wings, ready for its next iteration. I want to get back to autocrossing so very badly. but I'm trying not to rush into it, and I'm trying not to do anything that's silly or risky with the car in order to do that. That doesn't benefit me at all. Flamers wants to know what kind of video games do I enjoy playing that I don't make content on, basically. What do I play when I'm not streaming and I'm not recording? And currently, there's nothing. If I'm playing a video game currently, I'm almost 100% making some kind of content on that. It used to be that I played a lot of PUBG off camera, but I've since kind of worked out a way to do that game in a way that doesn't negatively affect what I do, but people can still watch. So I have a second off channel, an off Twitch channel, that I now stream most of my gameplay from PUBG to, but it's very, very chill, so quite a bit different than me on stream. I used to kind of make fun of Kurt for commonly saying that he doesn't play video games anymore. He doesn't ever game for pleasure. All he ever does is stream or make video off of games. I find myself becoming more and more like that over time, and I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It's just different. I think I found, like I said, I found the happy medium there. I found a way to still stream game stuff that is purely just for my fun. It's purely just me playing games rather than trying to host a stream. I'm not even going to monetize that Twitch channel. It has the ability to be affiliated, but I'm not going to do that because I know if I do that, it's going to become more and more like work. The pressure is going to be put on from me onto me to make that, a source of entertainment, and, thank the subs, and thanks for bits, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I love doing that stuff. I love streaming, but that's not what I want. That's not what I want just my casual fun gaming to be. Commander Sealand wants to know if I'm still considering going to the IMSA 6 Hours of the Glen. That is something that I talked about because we missed going to Daytona this year. Myself and my brother typically go to an IMSA race per year, either Daytona or it has been Sebring. We've considered Road Atlanta. This year we had the idea of perhaps going to Watkins Glen instead, because it's somewhere both of us have always really wanted to go. That is not up to my consideration right now. That would be a trip to pretty much fall on the shoulders of ducks. I can't just go and make that kind of statement right now. I can't say, yeah, I'm going to Watkins Glen for the IMSA race. Unfortunately, life does not work that way for me. So I know you're looking for an answer there, Sealand. You want to know if you should plan on going because you want to go if I go, but I can't just give you that answer right now. I can't give you an answer on whether I'm still going to be making YouTube videos or Twitch streams in the next 2 months. So I definitely can't give you that much advance notice. Cinnabon wants to know if I had to move next month to a different city, state, or country, had to move out of Florida, where would it be? If I had to move, if I was forced to leave this area, I still wouldn't go far. I've talked about this recently where I've decided that it's important for me to stay nearby. I want to stay close to where my parents are currently, so I'm completely disinterested in uprooting terribly far at this juncture. So I'm going to give you a super boring answer and say, well, I guess I'm going to Georgia then, because that's actually only a couple hours from me, an hour if you play your cards right. So yeah, like I said, a boring answer. If I want to be a little bit more entertaining with that, if there was nothing in the background, keeping me where I am, I would honestly really consider moving to New Zealand. I would honestly really consider being around the automation guys, because they're all friends of mine at this point. It's a completely different area. It's a country that seems way more in line with my personal way of living. They generally and genuinely appreciate motorsports, so it seems like a good place. But the reality is that is staggeringly unlikely to happen. Zigzag wants to know if I have a favorite period of history. Interestingly, I always really enjoyed history in school. Like, history was always one of my favorite subjects, whether it was high school, whether it was college. But I don't know that I really have a favorite. I particularly don't really enjoy I guess because it was so over-covered, the early America history. Like, by the time I got to high school, I was pretty much done with that. I didn't need to know about early American history anymore. I wanted to know more about, like, early European history, or even early human history. I think that's probably the most fascinating history period for me, is early documented or even theorized human history. Magnetos wants to know if I would run the Grocery Getter Classic. So that is a short track racing event in America that a group of people within the community have gotten together to run. It is a 24-hour endurance race with cheap grocery getter cars, and as far as I know, we have 2 teams of people competing in this from within our general group. And Magnet wants to know if because last year they streamed most of it, but they just kind of did it. They just kind of had it running in the background. It wasn't really a priority. They've wanted me to basically serve as media director for that event, and that's certainly something I would love to do. I would get a huge thrill out of that. That is unfortunately up in Indiana. It is very, very far from me, and it goes right back into all the travel discussion from before. At this point, at this juncture, I simply can't commit to anything travel related because I just don't know where I'll be. So it's something that's like, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I can't commit to it because things are way too unstable for me right now to say, hey, I'm gonna do that. But even if I'm not there and I'm not going, trust me, I'll be sharing with you all their progress up there. It's very, very fascinating, very interesting to follow along with. Games talking about the iRacing stuff. If you haven't been following along with the current iRacing series on YouTube, then you probably don't know that I've not been particularly enjoying the iRacing stuff lately. There's just a general lack of sportsmanship in iRacing lately that's really been kind of driving me away. I gave it kind of another chance here. I gave it another try for a series here. We've doing an advanced module with Jim, and it's again not really been winning me over. I also don't really. It's weird. I really enjoy watching endurance racing. I really don't get too much enjoyment out of competing in endurance racing events in sim racing. At least not anymore. I feel like I used to before I made content, but now that I do, it doesn't interest me as much as it used to. It's hard to be on for that long, for one. It's hard to be entertaining for that long, but it's also just, it's exhausting, and it doesn't feel as accomplished, Endurance racing in real life, it's a testament of like human and machine and making the car get to the distance, and everybody's just working to complete this endurance event, versus like iRacing endurance events. It's basically just 24 hours of back-to-back sprint races where nobody gives a crap about anybody else out there. It's everybody for themselves. And even as competitive as like real-world IMSA is, there's a lot more compassion for your fellow competitors in that. And that's completely missing in iRacing at the moment. Weatherman's curious what my earliest racing game memory is. For me, it probably goes back to I go and search mentally for this all the time, and the one that I always go back to is Rock and Roll Racing, which I don't remember if it was Super Nintendo. I feel like I'm pretty sure it was, but that and F-Zero are the two earliest racing game memories that I have, and there's like a lull after that. Well, it's not even a lull, it's just like I remember those very vividly, and then everything becomes a blur after that. My first racing game obsession, like the first one that I just like couldn't put down, was NASCAR Racing 2. That was the first one that, like, I think I was old enough to really get it and understand the controls and be able to play it, versus the other ones I just remember them as games, and I remember them, you know, I remember playing them, but I was probably too young to really play them well. So I remember them, but I couldn't actually play them. So, a twofold answer there, I guess. Jim's wants to know what the most Florida man thing I've ever done is, and that's pretty much summed up in one picture from my childhood. I'll show that on screen, and I think that'll pretty much cover it. Tax wants to know if I could run my own race team. What kind of series would it be? What team would it be? You know, what would you do, basically? If you could run your own race team, what would you do? I'm going to give you a very realistic answer for this one as well. I think at this point, I could realistically see myself running like a champ/chump car team, and I would want to do it with something 90s Japanese, because, you know, that's the era and style of car that I'm most obsessed with. To do like a 240 build or something like that. You know what would be really cool is to do like a silhouette car like the IMSA GTU 240SX as a chump car. So it would be, you know, just a regular 240SX, it'd still be slow, but to do like a silhouette version of the GTU car, that'd be pretty cool. If I was to dream, I don't know, the Viper GT3 is still technically a eligible car, I believe. So I'd run that thing till it couldn't be run anymore. Flamers wants to know my opinion on Brexit. Please leave my poor Discord channel alone, shouting and rabbling about it. It's so overrun. There's so many times I wake up in the morning and there's 300 unread messages about Brexit. Craig also wants to know if I have ever rallycrossed, or would I ever. Have not. Rode in a rallycross car. I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. I would say that's on my list of future builds, is a entry-level rallycross car. Probably the car I've always had picked out was a like Sentra-based 200SX front-wheel drive, or probably the other side of that would be a Mark II Supra. Like, if I was to go a little bit more dreamy with that, I think a Mark II Supra would be a really cool rallycross car. If I could... It's lunch break, by the way. It's lunch break. We're sitting here, we're digesting, everything's good. If I could enforce a new rule to Formula One, that's really tough, because most of what I want from Formula One is less rules. But I say that, but without rules, there is no formula. Like, the formula in Formula One is rules, right? It's regulations. There's some modern things with it that I'm just not a big fan of, and you've restricted me from getting rid of any, but I think if I could add something new, a new regulation. I'm gonna kind of break your question here, I think, but my new regulation would be to have a new regulation every year. I want to see a new formula every year. It's not as if at this point the teams aren't spending as much money as physically possible. Every year they are basically completely redesigning their cars to meet some kind of minutiae change to the formula. So I think if we made that more of a different formula every year, like this year, guess what? No rear wings. This year, guess what? Big shark fins, but no wings at all. This year, no wings, but the fans, like the what was that called? What was it called? The fan cars, where the downforce was made under the body. Either way, I'm just saying, if the formula was different more often, I think it would make the formula part of Formula One more interesting. This slow burn of every 10 years we have a dramatic change in formula, and then the 10 years in between that we spend as much money as physically possible on minutia changes to the car, isn't as interesting to me as in the older days of F1. Things were just constantly going through states of evolution and revolution, and just I don't think we'll ever get back to the point of so much new tech coming in. But I think if you took the time to, write a different set of regulations every year that opened up and closed different windows, we would see more innovation back and forth. We would see creative solutions to problems year to year. And you wouldn't be stuck in the situation of having one team that figures out the formula 10 years ago and rides that perfect car basically for a decade. Ferrari's done that before. Mercedes is doing it now. Now, in the Ferrari case, the formula did change up quite a bit during that era, but we all saw as soon as the V6 era came to be, as soon as this era came to be, it swapped. I don't know. It's just an interesting idea to me, I think. I would, if you were to give me control, and this will never happen, this is all just hypothetical, what I would do is make more regulation changes per year. I want crazy differing car building regulations per year. What's the best road you've ever driven on? From Home for Summer. What's the best road I've ever driven on? Probably the roads up in Washington. I don't even remember what roads they were. But there was a day that last year I spent a week in Washington just staying with Kurt. My phone does this weird thing where it does like beep, 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 beep through the speakers. It's very strange. Anywho, I spent a week up there with Kurt, and one day I said, hey, I'm going to take the Corolla out today, and I did. I just took it out and started driving, and I found some pretty fun, cool roads out there. They're not roads that are on any, top 10 best driving roads lists, but for Florida man here, they're pretty exciting. There was also the time, I wasn't driving, but when me, Ducks, and Slag went to get the Datsun pickup for Dad, we got it from Asheville, North Carolina, and we ended up on some very famous, I don't remember which one it was, but some very famous driving road. And we're like, going through these turns, barely keeping a trailer on the road, and we're like, man, this is something. And then we saw a street sign that was for the road we were on, and it was, I can't remember which one it was, but it was some famous driving road, and we're like, well, this is quite possibly the worst situation to be on this road right now. Get that AC on, it is hot as balls out here. Powers with a funny one here. How long before I do my rally launch video from a backyard? Well, problem there is, backyard of my current residence is about 200 feet long, so I don't think I'm gonna get much of a rally launch out of that. The problem is all of the roads that I remember from my youth growing up in the area I grew up, that were all just, very lonely, desolate dirt roads. There's just people everywhere now. You can't escape civilization in North Florida anymore unless you go way out there. And I don't have the time nor the money to just randomly drive to nowhere, so it hasn't happened yet. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Powers bought a Fiat kind of recently. It is a Fiat Jeep. It is a Renegade, I believe, and he is using that as his rallycross car. Rallycross, like SCCA, local level rallycross. We're not talking like, you know, Ken Block style rallycross here, but it's, you know, it's a fun little activity to do. And he did. I asked him to do a rally launch clip for me, and he did, and it was very entertaining. And I was like, I'd really like to do that now, just to see if the back wheels actually do anything, because this car is a Quattro, but it is a Haldex Quattro, so it doesn't send more than 50% power to the rear. And even when it does send power to the rear, it's usually, you know, just like a little tweak here or there. It's just, sorry, I have groceries in the car now. It's just a subtle, here's a little bit of power to the back to get the thing, you know, planted right. So I want to do like a little rally launch video to see if it actually spins back tires at all. In the 2 years I've owned this car, I have had the traction control click on once, and that was because it was raining and I was going over railroad tracks, and it just must have seen, like, the, you know, they use that metal grating on the railroad tracks. It must have seen low grip somehow over that, but it didn't even like kick in. It didn't do anything. I've never actually had traction control kick in this car. What fixture would I remove from automation? ZK, I think I'm gonna say something mildly controversial here. If Daphne's actually listening, he's going to be very upset. I would remove the spoilers because they still don't work right. They make me so sad every time I try to use the spoilers on the car and they don't line up to the body of the car. I get really upset, and then I give up and I use a bumper. Hey, easy, radio, I'm talking here. On a scale of great to awesome, how great is Formula E or something like that? I've never found any love for Formula E. I've tried, I've watched, I've given it chances. It doesn't do it for me. I don't like street courses, really. I really don't enjoy watching street courses, and that's basically all they run. I don't like the general, like, showiness of it. Like, they're really trying to, the TV production and everything, they try to dramatize everything about it, and it just comes off as fake and cheesy. And I still don't find the cars that interesting. They're not Formula E cars. They're basically spec racing cars with stickers on them. Like, I want to see a Formula E. I want to see a Formula E where they're like, hey, open wheel cars, battery powered, go as fast as you can. That's what I want to see. That's what electric car racing needs. It needs the innovation. It needs the wild and crazy solutions to problems. It doesn't need spec racing with spec, you know, amounts of power and limited grip and all that stuff. That's not really innovating, and it's not making people excited about electric cars. Gemini, what would I completely redo about Red? Completely redo? I mean, there's lots of little things, like, I would completely redo the differential. I would completely redo the way the rear differential is set up. I would go for a clutch back limited slip. I would completely redo the suspension of the car. I would go for, you know, a fully, completely adjustable setup. I've wanted to completely redo the wheels and tire setup on the car. That's been something I've been working on for a while. There's lots of little things, but I feel like your question is one of those, like, of something you've already done, what would you redo? And I have to say the paint. I would love to repaint that car, because at one time it was really pretty. It was as pretty as I could get it for a first first-time painter. I would love to try it again 10 years later and see how much better I could do. What was your all-time no, yes vehicular moment? Two of them. Number one, at a Gainesville autocross event, I was coming around the south side of the track. It was the faster, long sweeping turn. It was in the fall. It was very wet. The ditches that usually surround the track were full of water, and in this long off-camber turn, I pushed wide into the grass, and as soon as I hit grass, you just keep pushing wider and wider, and me and my passenger both thought we were going in the drink. Like, the water was approaching at a very rapid rate, and somehow I just kind of didn't panic and didn't hit the brakes. That was the big thing. So if you hit the brakes and you're sliding in grass, you're just gonna go sliding further. So I just kind of let it float and coast and coast and coast, and finally it turned just enough to keep it out of the water, and we got back on track and everything was fine. Number two, Dad, if you're listening, close your ears. When I very first started driving a 240 by myself out on the roads, I was way worse off then than I am now, shockingly. And I used to drive those things with awful tires, like used tires. It was ugly. It was really ugly. And one day in the rain, as I was going up a loop, like an on-ramp loop, it just kicked out on me back end. Like it was like one of those bizarre like lag caused spins in iRacing where it's just like, where did this come from? And sure enough, just not getting on it, not being a fool. I was a very timid young driver. Like I was not an aggressive driver then, as little as I am now. But yeah, it kicked down on me and spun out right on the on-ramp, and I soiled myself and continued on with my day. It was a lesson learned. It was a lesson learned. I guess the no was all of that. But yes, I just looped it and then came right back around to where I should be. Bruce wants to know, what are today's kids into that I just don't understand? I try not to be that way. I don't try to stay current. I'm not hip. I never was even a hip kid. But I don't try to be all like, these kids are doing weird things. I don't understand. This is wrong. They're wrong. I'm right. They're wrong. I try not to be that way at all, ever. But if there's one thing as I get older that baffles me is the way kids always want to be older. Kids always want to be seen as adults. They want to be, they don't want to be 15. They want to be 25 in people's eyes. Man, y'all got it all wrong. You don't want to be an adult. Being an adult sucks. Do you ever want to have children of your own? Mephistopheles. I was wondering if anybody was going to ask any hard-hitting questions. This one's up there. This one's in the hard-hitting category. Do I ever want to have kids of my own? I go back and forth on this one. I've been back and forth on this one a lot. It depends on, where I am in life that I kind of like change my feeling towards that subject. A lot of the times when I don't feel like I'm particularly sexful. that's related differently though. A lot of the times when I don't feel as successful, I don't feel like I'm in a position to have kids, and I wouldn't want to like raise a kid in the kind of conditions that they would be in my current position in life. So it's just something that's just completely off my mind. I don't think about the subject at all, and I don't even consider the option. Previously, when I was doing pretty well, I was making a decent wage. I was working a regular job and, going through different relationships and stuff like that. It was one of those things that was like, well, yeah, of course I'd have kids someday. It wasn't till I got older and a little bit more grounded on what it really meant that I started to be like, you know what, probably not right for me right now. And I've lately been coming to grips with the fact that it may not be right for me ever in my lifetime. It might, by the time it's right for me, it might be too late for it to be right for me. And I just kind of come to grips with that. I've become okay with that. If I were to buy a brand new car right now, brand new, I actually just had this discussion on Discord this morning about, we were talking about the 370Z Nismo, and the discussion was about like, how expensive that car was, but the fact that it is a manual, there's really no reason, if you look on paper, why that's not a car I would like. But anyway, I kind of got into the discussion because it's really apparent to me that until electric cars are the standard, which may happen in my lifetime and may not, but until that happens, I think pretty much every car I will own in my life has already been made. So if you forced me to go buy a vehicle right now at a dealership, I would get something that is purely utility, purely something that I need to use. So I guess I would go over to Hodges or whatever, their ramp truck dealership, and I'd buy myself a brand new ramp truck. I think they still make manual Dodges, manual full-sized ramp trucks. That'd be cool.
If Florida legalized recreational cannabis, would Florida Man stories change for better or for the worse? From Bruce.
I hear this double dip question, but we'll give this one a short, meaty answer. Would it be better or worse for Florida Man if there was illegal weed in Florida? I think it would probably get better. I think the stories would probably be funnier rather than sad. Because currently, most of them are just sad. And also it's sad how many people are still, like, going to jail for that stuff. That's gotta change. So, hopefully, there'd be more funny out of it and less sad.
If you were a lagomorph, which rabbit species or breed would you be? From Peter.
I don't want to be no damn rabbit.
You're starting any NASCAR Cup Series team. You can pick any two drivers to drive for you, but one must be a young driver, one must be a veteran. You also get to select any retired race car driver to act as a consultant and help run the team. Who do you select for your team, and who do you hire if you can't?
Alright, so this is one of those, like, how many questions can we pack into a questions? And I'm gonna be real cut to the chase here. Young driver Ross Chastain, old driver Carl Edwards, runs the team as team consultant Bobby Labonte. There you go.
If you could finally cut Florida off and move it somewhere else, which country would you attach it to, and why do you hate those people so much? Jordan.
I mean, it seems like we might as well just throw Florida onto Australia, right? All the animals want to kill you. It's so hot that the environment wants to kill you, and people talk funny. So, seems like a natural holy monster truck. Like, oh, I hope you can actually see that in the background. That's ridiculous. Florida, get a hold of yourselves. I think that's all the questions. I don't know how I'm gonna edit that. Hopefully it turns out okay. Very interesting questions. I think maybe if we do this on a monthly basis, we'll start to get into some more real questions and interesting stuff. Like, whenever you do an AMA and it's the first one you've done in a while, you get a lot of the, I don't know, more obvious questions. And as you go on, as time goes on, people start to get a little bit more risky with their questions and a little bit more interesting. It's also starting to rain, so enjoy this ASMR. Overall, it's been a very interesting time right now. We got a lot of kind of different things going on with our community here. We got the Random Park podcast, which I'm loving making it, and I'm starting to get into a little bit different of a rhythm with how I'm doing YouTube and Twitch. Feeling pretty okay with that rhythm. I kind of gave up on my dreams a little bit. Too sad? Not sad enough? Not sure. But yeah, I just kind of let some things go a little bit, not worrying so much about doing better, and just kind of focusing on doing for the moment, and seeing where that gets us. I go through these waves. I go through the waves of work really hard, try really hard, and then the period of like, it's not working, bail. But then I just kind of put my head back down and get back to work, and we'll see where that takes us. Currently, just kind of head down and working. Not a lot sticking, but damn, I'm trying. Hope you enjoyed this little bit of a weird, different take on Cone on the Road. Hopefully the audio is okay, thanks to the differing weather conditions of Florida. And I will see you next time.